It's Friday, everyone, and it's time for another episode of Kingdom Speak. Welcome back to the show this week. We have a guest, a friend of the show, and your favorite host, of course, the Reverend Daniel McKillop. Welcome to Kingdom Speak with Pastor Daniel McKillop and our friend K-Pat. This is the last episode before Peak. And happening at Peak this year. I don't know. We've talked a bit, but I just thought it would be a good day to bring out the mug.
It's a nice mug. What do you
to
got going
allow
on there?
us to explain our recent collaboration and decision to embrace the Biblos family.
Everybody compromises.
And
At some point.
we feel it's best at this time just to
After much negotiation.
deliberation, prayer, consecration.
The behind the scenes on this has been
To
Out of
find
this world.
mutual common interests and common ground has been a struggle. But we're putting all that behind us next week.
That's it.
It's going to be one big, beautiful podcast.
There might be some hecklers and disruptors.
Oh,
Just-
yeah?
I've heard.
Yeah,
I've heard.
yeah.
I have also heard that there's a plan during the recording.
Sabotage.
Speaking of a filibuster,
Yeah.
So I'll just warn you: if you're in the crowd, keep one hand on your wallet.
Is that what's going to be? Something like free, relevant discussions.
Yeah, just using the venue
yeah.
to further their own interests. We might say
Well,
that
you
way.
know,
So beware.
everybody's got to have a vision.
Beware.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are excited to get going. I'm not excited to pack up the gear. I will say that, but it's going to be a good time. So if you're planning to be there, come up and say hello. Pastor Daniel McKillop would love to chat with you for hours about all aspects of what it's like to be a podcaster.
take a photo with them, get your autograph.
Yeah, he would love to do that. So please, by all means.
So he'll be hanging around even after the
Oh,
podcast.
he'll be
to
there
sign.
early after.
He'll be at the merch table, probably
We need to go
nonstop.
on record as saying this podcast is at what time? What time are they recording this?
3
Let's
a.m.
just go on record and say we don't know yet. Yeah.
I've always been told and taught by my parents that anything that's said after midnight is not worth saying.
Wow.
So we already have
Wow. Yeah.
we already have a
Oh my
caveat
goodness.
for if it
Come
goes
on.
south. That's because it was
shutting
recorded
down.
after midnight.
Yeah.
Can you share with us what you'll be talking about at Peak?
No.
No.
No, I would if I knew.
You have to show up. It's going to be a good time.
It will
We're going
be
to
a
have
good
a good
time.
time. So look for us when we're there, and we'll look for
I
you.
want to throw bait to Urshan and then just let him talk. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to have lots of merch. And all right. So I had to get that in before we get going. Producer Randy, I just feel like now's
We
the
do.
right time to shift it
We
to
do.
you.
We have a
I
good
just
review
felt
for
that.
today.
So go ahead and take your liberty.
The title of this one is Thank You, Jesus. Well, we're off to a good start.
Wow.
What an outstanding podcast this is. 3 exclamation points.
Okay. How many stars is what we want
Is it
to
in
know?
caps?
This is a 5-star.
Oh,
Along with relevant discussions
Hey,
with
hey.
K-Pat.
hey.
Wait
What
a
do
minute.
you know?
Wait a minute.
That's my one listener.
And Beblos. Okay. All right.
Okay.
You're in the pool. Those are the top podcasts I listen to. I love listening to the Apostolics in depth, hermeneutical lessons you all teach.
It says hermeneutical.
Hermeneutical. Is
I've
that like
never
a
heard of that
one time.
podcast.
hermeneutical? Is that kind of like a sailor term here?
Yeah. Yeah.
They always bring a new perspective of the Word of God to my mind. Speaking of K-Pat, after so many years or months of hoping, Reverend Kelly Patrick finally was asked to preach at our church. I enjoy hearing him on this podcast. It's always such a simple lesson that he teaches. I like that. When he comes on the podcast, I guess punctuation matters. God bless you all in Jesus' name. P.S. May you please share this review when he's on here again.
Hey, looky here.
I'm going to enjoy hearing his reaction. That is from Tongue Talker
Yeah.
238.
All right. Let's get rid of that.
That's one Oregon, isn't it?
Hallelujah.
Pastor Matt Davies' church, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Wasn't you just out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know this is on the spot, but what are you thinking as you're hearing these words this morning?
Oh, I got a big check to send.
Oh,
It's a tongue
okay.
talker.
So
He
this
finally
was
came through for me.
finally the dots connect. Finally,
He actually just sent us a review, so that's cool.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Did your review say anything about Kingdom Speak?
Crickets.
Yeah.
I was looking for the button, but I'll just let the silence.
No,
drop.
but he did emphasize the simple stuff again, though.
Yeah.
So I at least commented that he connected with the objective of the podcast. Very simple.
To simplify the complexities of life.
Well, when you only have so much to work with, it stays pretty simple.
Yeah, that's right. Staying
The
humble.
most
over there.
difficult thing about your podcast is whether it's relevant or relevant.
Yeah.
Which way do I say that word?
Oh, I don't know how relevant it actually is. Well, I mean,
It's
anyway,
awesome.
it's we're on the wrong podcast to be talking about that. So
There was a good podcast on there a while ago on relevant discussions.
yeah, there was one. Yeah,
There was one.
Oh yeah.
There was a good one. It was a few weeks ago.
Oh,
Who was
really?
it with?
Some guy off Kingdom Speak. I'm not sure his name.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Dork, I think.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about the producer Randy episode?
man,
I heard
the
that was-
other McKillop.
That was a good
I
time.
heard that was a
The
good
other
time.
McKillop.
That's what we called it.
The other McKillop. Yeah. I got to go check those out. I haven't heard those.
Nah, you don't need to.
Yeah, I think I actually do.
Your time is valuable. I wouldn't worry about it.
Speaking of simple,
Awesome.
Before we unleash the beasts here, we have to
Unleash the
reverence?
beast.
we have to
The relevant reverends.
mention something else happened. Oh, that's a nice one too. The
Yes.
relevant reverence. If you keep saying that, something relevant, it's just something will just take over.
Yeah.
speaking of a tongue talker.
The our friends at Christian Life Church in Memphis
Yeah.
are hosting a conference in August. They wanted us to share, so we chatted with you about this probably a couple months ago, but we wanted to bump this again to let you know what's happening. So I'm just going to read off a few names here and see if these sound familiar to you. Cornelius Williams, Caleb Adams, Nathaniel Urshan, Ashley Grizzle. Those are all renowned Kingdom speakers.
Yes.
Then others who are on our list to get on the show, perhaps even if they're listening now, this may nod to them to say, "Come on, it's time." Ben Davis, Todd Nichols, and Kathy Copeland. So all of these speakers together are coming together to talk.
Hey, there's been a lot of chirping about having her on, actually.
Yeah,
She was
let's do
actually
it. So-
really good.
Yeah. Sister Copeland, get ready.
Come on, Sister Copeland.
Get ready.
That's right. That's right. So the Equipped Conference is a gathering
What a
for the
lineup.
developing preacher and spouse to be challenged and enriched with practical ministry skills. So it kicks off Thursday, August 7th with Reverend Nathaniel Urshan. Friday, there's classes throughout the day, lunch, breakout sessions, and that evening with Todd Nichols wrapping it up. So there's hotel stuff on there on the website if you hit clcmemphis.life. But what's cool is there's a Kingdom Speak discount. So yeah, there's always that. So get in on it. It looks great. It looks great.
What a great lineup. Yeah.
Great
That's-
lineup. And producer Randy, did I mention any details? I know you're a detailed guy, but
No, this is just for folks like myself, developing preachers and ministers of the gospel. And I plan to be there. So yeah,
It's gonna be good.
It's going to be a great
gonna be good.
conference.
and when you see all of the speakers at the conference, please say, "Hey, when's the last time you've been on Kingdom Speak?" And yeah, we appreciate that extra. It's like a crowd effort to
Crowdsourcing.
keep the guests
Pressure
coming onto
on.
the show.
Yeah.
Please, I mean, because
Tremendous.
it's like they're running out of options here. They keep showing my face here, so
Yeah.
this chair needs.
Need someone else in it. Well, we feel that way about this chair over here. That's why whenever we get a chance, we throw someone in that chair. Hey, I think it's great though that that there's meetings
Oh yeah,
focused on that particular, just the development. That's a great, a great conference.
I'm seeing a couple things here, like study habits and the art of preaching as a couple of the topics. I'm assuming they'll just be using AI for both of those sessions.
Yeah.
Do you know what? They probably planned the conference before AI hit mainstream, and they didn't realize that
You know,
AI would do that.
just did you ever make it to any of the admits
yeah,
in Tulsa?
yeah.
I was
Not
at
a
the-
lot, but
yeah, same for me. I was at the first 2 or 3. But that was what those, I don't know about later years. I'm sure it stayed relevantly the same. Relatively the same. But it was geared towards developing young ministers.
Yeah.
And it made me think about it when Brother Randy there mentioned study habits. But the very first one, Larry Booker spoke on study habits.
Oh, wow.
It
Yep.
was it impacted the way that I studied for the rest of my life.
Sure.
It was awesome.
Sure. Well, and when you think about it, if you're a young minister, who wouldn't want the opportunity to sit down and talk with Brother Urshan about,
Absolutely.
I don't know what his particular assignment is, but, you know, the art of preaching.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think that is his assignment. Actually.
is it?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, of course,
Yeah.
I want to hear it. So, don't miss it. That's great.
Don't miss it. It's going to be good.
Good.
It's going to be good. So, man, last time was AI. Is this the anti-technology
None of
episode
what we
today?
said last episode with you was real.
Yeah, it wasn't actually K-Pat.
I was here. I don't remember being here.
Yeah. We just took a picture and
AI generated.
generated the narrative, and we said what it wanted us to say.
Yep.
Come to think about it, I don't even know if this is real right now. Am I
How can
dreaming?
anyone judge reality?
Yeah. Lots of feedback from that last
Yeah,
episode
sure was.
on studying with AI.
Yep.
So I think it was successful in the sense of it's brought the conversation
right.
to the table, and it needs to be had.
Yeah.
So that was a subject that I appreciate you tackling. Brother Patrick has been, and for those of you that don't know and haven't already picked up, you need to go check his podcast out. Relevant Discussions with K-Pat. You're on all platforms, I guess.
Well,
Apple Podcasts.
Podbean and Apple for sure. For some reason, they're not all uploading to Spotify, but most of them are on Spotify.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Derek
you're
would
speaking my language, man. Telling you.
We're not yet on anything else, but that's the primary 3.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
Hit them up. They're on social media.
social media relevant discussions
Yep.
with K-Pat.
So that's great. We're glad that you're doing it. Brother Patrick's been in and out of FWC 2 or 3 times over the last couple of months, and so every time he comes, we try to snag an episode or 2. And so one of the things that this is how it kind of often goes for us. We'll have conversations, having a cup of coffee, and then we'll say, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
So I want to set this up because this is something that we've had numerous conversations personally about it. You tapped into some of it with our church in this latest visit that you've been with us, but it's about the transientness, if that's even a proper word, of walking with God. And I've always been intrigued by that because I think that that's why he describes it as a walk with God, as a walk.
Yeah.
Abraham, I want you to, wherever you put your foot.
Yeah.
I think that communicates the fact that we are always headed somewhere from somewhere.
Right.
And so one of the things that we've discussed as, since 2008 when we first met, we're not quite as young as we used to be.
Yeah, I was just last year or so.
Yeah, just a few months ago. We if you've been a success, you hear the chuckles over there.
I'm
Yeah.
wanting to go
Trying to
find-
keep it together.
I know.
Just move on.
I'm trying to go. Do I actually have a photo from 2008 that I could just quickly share? But
I just want to tell you something there, dude. You guys are
None
not
that
the
you would
only
recognize.
ones.
Huh?
We're not the only ones that
go ahead.
the landscape is changing.
No, actually, in 2008, that would have been my first year in the youth group. Yeah. So,
Had you shaved yet?
yes, maybe. You know what? I would have received my first electric razor.
Yeah. The classic, put the whipped cream on the face, let the cat lick it off. Yeah.
So, anyway, continue.
The point being, before we get sidetracked here, that you can look at lives, and I don't want this said about me, that are a success in a particular season,
Yes.
but then as life progresses, because for whatever reason, and there can be a host of them,
Yeah.
they refuse the demand to stay abreast
Yeah.
with a walk with God, not just
Right.
life, like with a walk with God.
Yeah.
Paul said it's from glory to glory.
Yeah.
There is nothing sedentary about this walk with God.
That's right.
It's always on the move.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about that, and you had shared some particular insights on that, on the whole process of God reinventing even who you are over and over again.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say what an honor it is to be back on Kingdom Speak. I realized over the last couple of times that I've been here, we just jumped right in. And I haven't even taken the opportunity to say it really is a great privilege.
Man, we appreciate it.
To be invited on. And eventually the saturation point has to be reached. So we're getting close to that. Surely.
That sounds like a hope.
That's a plea. That's
Yeah.
a plea for help. Is what that is. And we're not rescuing you, buddy.
Yeah.
So thank you for inviting me on. But yeah, this life is transitory. It is.
That's the word I should have said. What did I say?
transient.
Something.
No, I didn't.
Something a little longer.
Transienter,
Yeah. I just threw a bunch of letters together.
Prefix.
Yeah.
that wasn't a subtle correction. I was just.
Oh, I receive it.
What a beautiful example of an elder
Wow.
receiving correction from another.
Yes. Yes. Submit yourselves one
Iron
to the other.
sharpeneth iron. Eh?
My God. Wow. Wow. I think you got a
Wow.
I think you got a bar for that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Transitory. That's the word.
Yeah. So, I think one of the things that we resist the most is happening around us constantly.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's happening in such incremental units and forms that we don't even realize that it's happening. But even in the individual personal life, just physically, you are constantly changing. And if you don't adapt to those changes, life can be challenging and difficult and frustrating. So, when it comes to the work of God and living for God and walking with God, it is a constant going out from. We talked a little bit about this just in conversation. The Exodus narrative
Yes.
is not just about coming out of sin into newness of life, in the sense that it is a pattern that is repeated over and over. You're constantly coming out and going into.
Always.
And that always requires adjustment. It requires change.
Yes.
The little saying that I've used, it's not original with me, but I keep it where I can see it, is that in every phase of life, there's going to be change. So every phase of life has its differences. And every phase of life requires a different version of you.
Oh, that's so well said. Yeah.
So am I willing to become that version of myself to
Right.
be
Right.
in that phase of life what I need to
What
be?
it requires.
Or am I going to say, no, I'm done. I can't be that. I won't be that.
Yep.
And so for me personally, it's been a journey over the last many years of coming to the knowledge and embracing the very concept that if I'm going to continue to be and grow, it's going to require me to become perhaps what I don't even think that I might be able to become,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And where this kind of all got started,
So I think what I'm picking up from this is that all the changes don't happen at the new birth.
no, I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, that's the initial, obviously, salvific
Right.
change. But it's impossible to stay there. That's not normal.
You can only celebrate on the other side of the Red Sea so long with a tambourine
Yeah.
about the fact that you came through the Red Sea.
Right.
At some point, he's got a Mount Sinai for you.
Right. And
But it's going to demand things of you.
yeah. Yeah. And, you can pick out any character in the scripture you want to, and you can evaluate their life and see the principle that, even with Jesus, when he was 12 years old, he was in the temple reasoning with the doctors and the lawyers and the scribes. And when his mother found him, we all know the story. I must be about my father's business. But he went home and he submitted, and he grew in favor with both God and man for the next 18 years.
Yep. Yep.
But there came a time when he had to transition into his purpose, and it demanded of him change and transition. And we could get bogged down in that discussion. But so any character you want to pull out of the scripture, you can highlight this about them. That, what really got me thinking about this years ago was Hebrews 11:7, when the Bible says, by faith, Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house. He wasn't a shipbuilder, and he had never seen rain, or the world had never seen a flood.
Sure.
So he was stepping out from among the crowd to become something that he had not even seen in anyone else before.
Nothing to pattern after.
It
nothing
demanded
to-
of him.
Yeah.
And I'm going off the top of my head right here, but Isaiah says, we could pull it up and get the language right, but we are to make room for habitation. What is it, Isaiah? Where he talks about lengthening the cord, strengthening the stakes.
Yep. Let me just pull it up.
Because that has within it, to me, the whole concept of ongoing growth and transitory life. So Noah, who is not a shipbuilder, is given by God a pattern to build this boat. And the question that came to me personally was, would I have the courage to do something like that in my life?
Right.
If God said, hey, you don't have any qualifications for this, so you got
But
it.
Yeah, so it's Isaiah 54.
Yeah,
Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break
Right.
forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail
right.
with child. Well, I don't want to hijack this, but that's fascinating.
Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah. Like,
Which all requires change and embracing things that were incapable of happening.
right. And crying aloud as a parallel to the volume associated with travail.
Yeah,
You're not going to get by
yeah,
without this. Anyway, that's another.
yeah.
For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord. Enlarge the place of thy
Okay.
tent.
So this is your requirement.
Yes.
This is not what God's doing.
Yes.
So if you're anticipating change, you got to make room for it.
And let them stretch forth
Okay. So
the
if,
curtains of thine habitation.
if you're not willing to be stretched,
Yep.
how can you make room for more?
Right. Right.
So as you come out of this into the next,
Yes.
you don't have the capability or the capacity, which is a hot topic that
Yep.
you guys have been dealing with over the last few years.
Yep.
You don't have the capacity
Yep.
for what it's going to take in this next dimension.
Yep.
So you got to make room, and you've got to stretch yourself in order to become what can be effective in the next phase or the next dimension of life or the next dimension of ministry. Or so to sit around and say, now I know this may sound kind of harsh, but I don't mean it to be harsh, but well, my personality, that's not my personality. Okay, then work on those inadequacies.
Yes.
Stretch that a
Yes.
little.
Stretch that.
Yes. That's not a license to remain.
Right.
That's an assignment and a responsibility
Yeah.
to change.
Yeah. And you know, Brother Nathaniel Wilson has this little saying that I've picked up years ago that, you know, so you want more? Well, that requires more.
That's exactly
Quit
right.
saying you want more if you're not willing to become more.
Yes. Yes.
So don't sit around and, you know,
Well, so I think a big piece of this addresses the tendency within us to go, that's enough.
yeah,
Spare not.
yeah,
Lengthen thy cords and strengthen thy stakes.
yeah. So get ready
That is
to
so
expand.
good. Yes.
So whatever you want to fill those gaps with, like,
Yes.
you know, okay, what do I need to be doing? Anticipate that there's going to be transition in life,
Okay.
and you may not know everything that you're going to need in transition, but be pliable,
Yes.
be expandable,
Yes.
be flexible, in the sense that you may not have any of the qualifications to be a shipbuilder today, but God anticipates you building a ship tomorrow. So be willing to let God
Mold you.
create in you the
Yeah.
abilities to do those things. And, you know, I used the illustration when I started pastoring. So I evangelized 8.5 years originally when I started out in ministry after I graduated from Bible school, Texas Bible College, plug.
We forgot to hang his diploma on the wall there.
Dr. Patrick.
Yeah.
That's safe title.
Kind of like Randy's diploma hanging over his.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't have that camera angle.
He's drawing
don't- right.
pictures. Beautiful.
Very nice.
Right there.
A graduate of the taped mouth.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Caricature education.
So I evangelized 8.5 years. People had said to me, and it was because of my personality and my, you know, primarily being an introvert by nature and I guess somewhat easygoing. Some people would qualify that as half dead, but whatever. You know, they would say things like, "Oh, you have a pastor's disposition."
Okay.
You know, well, what does that mean? I had no idea.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so when I started pastoring, I was not a pastor, even though they kept saying that I had a pastor's disposition. I was an evangelist, and that, you know, we're not going to talk about all the qualification of what that means, but I
So many sacred cows we could tip over.
Yeah.
Bro,
yes,
don't,
there
don't
are.
let fear hold you
I mean,
back.
I mean, I'd love to do a whole podcast on what is an evangelist, but
I know a podcast.
You know, it's interesting you would say that.
That's
sitting
a
here.
good one for relevant discussions. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
Well, you probably can make that a series.
We would have a few listeners for that, wouldn't we?
Yes. Yes.
I will just throw this tidbit out. I'm not 100% sure that what we force a guy into is what the biblical narrative.
I would agree with that.
But anyway,
I would agree with that.
so but there are aspects about an evangelist that are vastly different than a pastor, and so I went into pastoring as an evangelist, and the first 3 years I operated kind of like an evangelist. And
in the role of a pastor.
yeah, but I was now pastoring
Yeah.
in the office of a pastor. So I was an evangelist with the pastor label.
Now, at the time, were you self-aware of that, or was that a subconscious role?
Not
that you-
initially.
No.
Are we seeing this object in the mirror a little closer than it
Yeah.
appears?
Now that I reflect on my behavior,
Yeah.
I mean, initially it was very difficult for me to understand that, but it became very clear within a couple of years, that, okay, this is not a people issue.
Yes.
This is a me issue.
Yes. Okay.
So-
well said. Yep.
I can't expect the people to change. I'm the one that needs to acquiesce to the office God has placed me in.
Right. Boy, that's
And it had, I don't know how deep you want to get into this, but it had
Deep.
developed out of a conversation about a well-known evangelist that someone who was very close to him at the time made the statement. I want to be real careful here because I don't want people trying to figure out who it is, but
Well, I was already trying.
yeah,
Initials.
initials so you can pray.
Yes, all the things.
Anyway, and he even admitted at times that maybe he didn't allow God to make him into a pastor.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's I get it. That's a big discussion. All right, that's not my issue. My objective is not to answer that question. But I had that conversation, so it was in my mind. Okay, so I'm not just naturally a pastor. God has to make me into a pastor after His own heart.
Okay. Very good.
So,
we make these statements just to further solidify that point. God does not call the qualified; He qualifies the called. So, if that's the case, then we have to be fully prepared that when an assignment, a divine assignment, is given, that's when the real work starts.
yeah.
We don't come ready mixed.
Right. And, I think where I'm at in life even now is that never stops. So there is no, okay, when you reach this place in ministry, you're done. You are what God wants you to be.
Yeah, I think that's broader than you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think that's all.
I'm
of
just
us. Yeah,
making
I know
a
you're trying to
reflection,
be. Yeah,
That,
yeah, but I could say this, and I mean, my dad may or may not listen to this. I have no idea, but just to take it to the point of the twilight years of a man's life and ministry, my dad has had to adapt again.
yes. Yeah.
Right?
we had Bishop Alviar talking about this a couple months ago. Remember him saying,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it has
And
different
so
feel when you're
to
not.
to resist that would negate any influence whatsoever.
Yeah. And yeah. And where I'm presently at, of course, I know this process has been going on inside of me for a number of years, so I'm not just arriving there today. But I'm already looking at that. And I'm observing men, like Bishop Odom,
That well said. Yep.
who is
Yep.
in a completely different phase of life than he's ever been in. And he has had to, I don't know if this is the correct word, but evolve his effectiveness, his ministry
Yes. Yes.
into a completely different realm that he wasn't comfortable with 10 years ago.
Yeah, and even through, and I hope this isn't taking this part of it too far because he's doing it now. So, but I remember even having the discussions of his comfortability with mediums like this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whether there would be a camera or not, whether, right?
Yeah.
This is a man in his late 70s
Yeah. 79.
that is navigating this, has stood in front of thousands of people and preached the lights out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now he's grappling in his 70s.
And so he's you
and
meant-
doing it, I might add, in an incredibly successful,
Yeah.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
fashion.
And I don't want to divulge anything here that he didn't want divulged, so I'll keep it just generic. But he's actually launched out onto another endeavor
Yes,
that he's working on,
yes.
and it's consumed him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, okay, so
That's at 79.
that's at 79. And here's something else and these are just examples. This was years ago, and some of our younger listeners will probably not even know who the Cathedral Quartet was.
Man. How about you, kid?
Anyway, they were,
Fantastic.
in my opinion, the Cathedrals were the epitome of quartet Southern gospel.
Sure.
George Johns.
George Johns,
Glenn
yep.
Payne.
Yeah.
So Glenn Payne, of course, they were together for decades, and Glenn Payne developed cancer, and I want to think he was in his early 70s, maybe late 60s, early 70s, and man, this just thundered in me. He was basically in the last stages of cancer in the hospital. He was still taking voice lessons weekly.
Woo.
That's
Woo.
Voice coach was still coming to the hospital, and he was still exercising his voice, making sure his tones and pitches.
Wow.
And I'm going to say that, I've been preaching 10 years. I about got it all figured out. And I'm not willing.
Yeah.
Now, this is another whole subject, and it gets very touchy. But that is something about ministry is resistant, is the only profession that is resistant, and more particularly apostolic Pentecostal preaching, to continuing education.
Sure. Sure.
In any other professional form in
Sure.
life, you are expected certain hours
Yes, you are.
of maintaining
Yes, you are.
awareness
Recertification.
and recertification.
Yep.
yeah, and if you don't, you become like the PT cruiser on the car lot, right? It's pretty evident. You don't have to
Yeah.
tell people that you're not
Wood
doing
grain
it.
on the side, I might add.
Yeah.
Woody
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have
So-
to tell people. You just
Yep.
You know, that-
speaks for
you tell
yourself.
people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to throw stones at any particular group of people. I'm just saying, for me, I want to embrace that constant transition and become what I can be in that next phase. And so God literally put me on my back after 3 years of pastoring and said, okay, here's the deal. You can either let me transition you into the pastor I want you to be, or you can be a frustrated evangelist trying to pastor.
That's a huge statement.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then
Yep.
17 years later, I got to process that again.
Sure.
Okay, so let's transition back from pastor to an itinerant preacher.
Yes.
I reject the title evangelist because
Sure.
it just don't fit. It just
Sure.
I've tried the jacket on in multiple sizes, and it just
doesn't fit.
just doesn't fit. So,
Itinerant. What did you
What?
call it?
itinerant preacher.
Itinerant preacher.
What was
That's a
it
new one.
What was the term that was raised at Power Conference a few weeks? The
Yeah, homeless pastor.
homeless
HPA.
HPA, Homeless Pastors
Yeah,
Association.
he said it on the show.
Yeah, HPA.
I think that was Will Banks. Brother Will Banks.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, he said it on the show. Yeah.
He's the president of the Homeless Pastors Association.
Hilarious. It's hilarious. I guess it's hilarious if you're not in the shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so that okay. So how can I be? What are the things that I can allow to be changed in me to be effective for this season of life?
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah, that's the concept.
And so this resonates with us especially when I say us, obviously Derek and Randy, but in a broader sense, our church. Our theme this year is transition.
Yeah.
And what God dealt with me about, because God being our helper and barring unforeseen circumstances and the saints don't rise. Who was it that said that the other day? I think it was Brother Wells. Yeah, the saints don't rise. We'll be moving into occupying our
Yeah.
new building. This is literally demanding. You know, it's easy to talk about something from 100 miles out. Right. And go, man, if I have this and I had that, and we do this and we do, until all of a sudden you have it now.
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And so expanding into this new facility, and I'm not wanting to hijack this. This is why this resonates. So it's not just on a personal level, it's also on a ministry level for an entire ministry team, a church itself, that now we're going to be moving into this space. It requires all of the staff to reconfigure. There's positions that emerge. There's opportunities that emerge. There's tons of responsibility. You literally have to be willing to deconstruct how you've always done things.
Yeah.
And so that's been the instruction for our church leadership this year is we only want to do things that are working.
Yeah.
We don't want to do more things, but we want, and so we've even changed up some scheduling, Saturday night youth services and yada, yada, yada. So this fits, in my opinion, in the Noah narrative, except, and I find it ironic that you're highlighting the beginning of Noah's ministry, but run to the end.
Yeah.
Okay? He's built the ark, so he became what he was not, which was an ark builder.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure what he was before that,
Yeah.
but we just know that he had to become it based on divine command. And he spends 100 years-ish constructing it. So somewhere he no longer could say, I'm not an ark builder.
Right.
He became it.
Yeah.
He became one with that. What was new 100 years ago is now.
Yeah.
This is who he is.
Yep.
Oh, he's the guy that's the ark builder. Yeah. And when he survives the storm, after they've spent a year on that boat, and they emerge, he has to reinvent again.
Yeah. Okay, we're done with that phase. No.
If he would have said, well, no, I mean, God told me to build this.
Can't walk away from it.
It saved me. How in the world can I leave this?
Do you know how much time I have in this?
Yeah.
You can't fulfill the next assignment from inside that ark. No.
Yeah.
You have to multiply, replenish the earth.
Oh, Lord, that Ishmael might live before you.
So the tendency can be that Noah looks at it and goes, God told me to do it. I became what I wasn't comfortable with becoming. I built it. It was a success. It floated. I survived. We were saved. Let's build an altar and stay right here.
Yeah.
And at that moment, what was a success in his life becomes the chief identifying element of his demise because he refused to transition.
Yeah. Don't
put a porch on the side of that ark and make it your homestead.
Yeah, that's good.
You got to move on.
Yeah.
You got to move on.
Yeah. Well, and that makes me think of, one of the overwhelming questions of life is, what is next?
Yes.
And it arises at every season of transition. That question is, what is next? And, a lot of people eagerly anticipate that next chapter until they're at the threshold, like you were saying. So you anticipate, man, what it's going to be like when and then you're at the threshold of that change, and there's so much uncertainty. the tendency is to retreat back into the ark.
Yes.
Okay, I'm familiar with that.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's made to float, and I know it's just sitting here stable and stagnant now, but I'm familiar with so I'll retreat back into the familiar
stability
comfort. Yeah. A transition is a process of
There's a
transformation.
stability to past success, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I'm going to retreat
Because once you
back to
learn
that.
it,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and you have grown into that.
Yes.
Well, there's a tendency you can just kind of put it in neutral, which really there's no such thing. You're slowly drifting.
That's it.
You know, and so the transition is a process of transformation. So, this is just something I've processed through my mind rather than being paralyzed by uncertainty and wanting to retreat. That's the natural inclination when there's so much uncertainty. It is to try to embrace the limitless potential of the unknown. So the way that you do this, or one of the ways that it can be done, is in the moments of uncertainty, instead of retreating, you work on refining the strengths and skills that you presently have.
Okay.
And as you do that, as you strengthen and refine and work ahead, new opportunities present themselves for growth. One of the things that I've used for years is what we get most frustrated about is what is beyond our control.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we spend a lot of time frustrated when in reality the process of growth is refining the things that you have control of.
Absolutely.
So
we've talked about this before. Early in the early stages was one of our probably first series of episodes on being a control freak. That's what we are.
yeah,
But the problem is we obsess about the things that we can't control.
we can't control. Yeah,
When we really need to be, I need to be a control freak about me
yeah,
and what is within my
yeah.
ability to control.
And I made mention of this last night, even in, and I by no means am an expert on this, and so I'm not speaking from that vantage point. Just an observation. The frustration and fear of making a statement like, I'm going to start a church,
Yes.
in comparison to, and I know it's semantics,
Yeah.
but language matters.
Yes, it does. Words matter.
And it seems like somebody preached that recently somewhere. If you haven't heard Nathan Cox preach Language Matters, phenomenal message, man. Anyway, so at least in my mind, it matters in the sense of that's a great responsibility
Yes.
to start something from scratch. When in reality, the church has already been started for 2,000 years.
Well,
It began on the day of Pentecost. Jesus himself initiated it.
yeah.
Upon this rock,
And
I
you're
will
gonna start
build
it.
my church. And I get it. I understand. But would it not be better to approach that idea from, no, I'm not starting a church. The church has already been going. I'm just going to open an opportunity for God to continue
What he started.
what he's already started. So I'm going to open an opportunity here, or I'm going to open an opportunity here. And I even shared in Grand Falls on Sunday night, one of the perspectives that I hope that the people have is this isn't something separate. This is an outlet for something God is already doing.
Boy, that's so good.
And so this isn't just so you
Critical.
have a place to go to church closer to home.
Right.
This is so the outlet has another place
Yes.
to flow.
Yes.
And people have access
Yes.
to something that's already going on.
Yes.
It's
100%.
So I have to be willing to embrace that kind of transition and allow myself to grow into the opportunities. But if I've not prepared, if I haven't paid attention, and I have a list, so that I have to constantly remind myself of, here's the things that I'm demanded to pay attention to: my relationship with God, my family, and my personal self-growth. If I am not constantly and consistently involving myself in those three things, I will not personally be prepared for each phase.
Wow. Well, that's so good. That's really good.
So, being willing, and everybody has to answer for themselves, obviously. But I find it interesting in being in and out in the ministry over the last 27, 28 years, and certainly the last couple of years traveling full time. How can individuals who want more but are not personally willing to become more.
Wow. What a statement.
Yeah.
They expect it just to come up and hit them in the head. And
Yeah. I mean, they, what am I, I have a vision, so what am I presently doing to actualize that vision?
Right.
If I'm just, I know this is going to be a controversial statement, but if I'm just sitting around waiting on God, it will never happen.
Of course not.
It's kind of like the statement, I don't want to steal your story or statement, but I've used it so many times because it's just been so powerful to me about Brother Howard.
Yes.
When he asks you, do you want God to get involved in this building? I mean, I know I've beat that and said it so many times, but man, it just resonates with me so much. Well, then, if you want God to get involved, get started.
You got to get started.
So what I guess what has, initiated a lot of this through the years is me personally, man, I'm believing God for this. Oh, you're believing it? So what action are you taking that proves that's what you believe?
Right. Because everything, if we take this back to all the things that we're talking about, we fully expect in an initial salvation experience.
Yeah.
If you believe, we expect action.
Yeah.
That's what separates us from mainstream denomination. Well, I believe God and I accept the Lord as my Savior. Oh, well, good. What are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go to the water and get baptized.
Right.
Like we fully believe and embrace that belief is manifested by action.
Right.
So if you believe, laying this as a filter over ministry and calling, and what are you doing about it?
Well, even bringing it down to even a more localized level, so these guys feel like they're in the conversation.
Yes, yes.
we always feel like we do.
Yeah.
If a local church has a vision, then what are the people doing to prepare themselves to be
Very much so.
involved in that vision?
Right.
So and I know this happens here probably on a larger scale than maybe most places, but putting before the people the challenge, what is it that you personally can grow into that can facilitate the vision that God is wanting to do here?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's ownership at all levels.
Right.
And it's saying, well, what kind of church do you want to attend?
Yeah.
And expecting you to do everything?
Yeah.
Like, can you do the greeting and the music and the singing?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the meal after? And, well, no, somebody has to do that.
Yeah. I've used that question in the sense of, so if you were the representation of what this church is to the world, what would
What
they be
kind of
thinking
church?
about your church?
Yes.
That's
right.
That puts it on the local level.
Well, we're going to sit and we're going to pray and believe that we're going to have revival.
Yeah.
So I suppose God and an evangelist are going to bring it to us in an attaché case. We're going to open it up and consume it like, the arrival of some drug money from Central America.
Yeah.
Like when you break it down that way, it really is almost laughable.
Yeah.
Well, we believe in God. Well, what are you doing about it? Are you trying to impact the people on the job?
Yeah.
Are you trying to land a Bible study? Are you reaching outside of yourself?
Yeah.
Or are you just expecting revival to come knocking on
Yeah.
the door and us show up and our church has just supernaturally doubled?
And I'm not going to get too far into the weeds on this right here, but I would just say that I have been on this journey for a number of years now and have talked about it so much. God has now put me in a position to say, okay, well, man up.
Let's do it.
Can you do this? Can you step into something that has never been on your radar? And can you take the challenge to,
I would like for you to build a boat, Brother Patrick.
yeah. You're not a shipbuilder, but let's go build an ark.
Wow.
So when I say what I'm about to say, I get it. I understand how this works. I don't have the backing to say this kind of thing, but at least it's in my mind and perception that, I've wrestled with the whole concept of, well, I could never have a church of 150 because I can't pastor that kind of church.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, then what are you doing to become the man that can? And okay, everybody answers for themselves. I get it. And okay, I understand all the dynamics of that. I've been around long enough to grasp at least all the dynamics of location and town size. But,
Yeah. Okay, I have too. But this
Yeah.
is what I've also noticed. We're in a rural setting. So God will start challenging you. If you start hitting the threshold,
yeah,
whatever that is, because that's not up to man
Right.
to determine, then God starts challenging you to reach and grow in other areas.
yeah,
I have never seen God go, bro, that's good. You made it.
You impressed me.
Now, if you can just hold that pattern for the next 32 years,
yeah.
well done, thou good and faithful servant. No.
Yeah.
And here's another part of this conversation. And again, kind of like the AI discussion, this part of the conversation, I don't know that there's an answer. It's just part of the conversation in the sense of, okay, we all have our responsibilities. The guy that has the one talent has his responsibility. The guy that has the 2 or the 5, the guy that has the 5 or the 10. Everybody has the responsibility. Some bring forth 30, some bring forth 60. Okay, so the question is, can the one talent guy, obviously we know
Increase.
that he can
Yeah.
increase to 2 because that's when he got in trouble.
Right.
But could he increase to 5? Or, because it's been used both ways, and I understand, that, well, if you're only if you're only a one talent guy, then strive to have 2. That's your challenge to
Right,
grow
double.
into
Yep.
the capacity of having more.
Yep.
But is that where it stops?
Yeah.
Can you then at 2 go to 4? 4 to 8.
Yep. I'm just a 30-fold guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a 60-fold guy.
Sounds like self-justification for a lack of progress
Well,
when you say it
Well,
like that.
there's
Yes.
that,
yes, and as much as it is applicable, and we'll have to land this ship and maybe stitch another episode on this topic because I don't think we've quite plumbed the depths. But it's one thing to say for the guy that is not starting a church, I am going to say, is tagging into what God has already started, looking for the opportunity to nurture that from 0 to 50.
Yeah.
I think there would be general consensus that man would be expected to go, I think I can hit 100,
Yeah.
without anybody going, oh, no, he's a 30 guy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But yet that conversation starts happening somewhere around 100, 150.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay? Not everywhere, but if we're not careful, that can inch in. I've gone from 0 to 300. I built my last building, man. I'm done. This is just not. Okay. So let's talk about it from, and I hate using the top end because only God knows what the top end is.
Yeah.
But what about the guy that took over a church from a previous generation and it's running, 500?
Yeah.
What's his assign? Is he called to maintain?
Yeah.
Maintain.
Or is it somewhere we gotta grow again?
Even, yeah.
What about 800?
Yeah.
What, you know what I mean? Think about the guy that's taking over a church that's in that state.
Yeah.
What does that guy do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can be critical. Well, he's just egotistical. He's just trying to.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's got to do
Yeah.
something,
He's got, yeah.
or he'll lose what he has.
Yeah.
Like, this is an ever increasing kingdom, so we don't want that same approach that the ministry that's at that 100 threshold. We want that to shake off. Man, you need to go. You can do more. There's potential there. Maybe you can double that tower.
Yeah.
But I don't think the guy. Maybe I could say it this way. I don't think the guy that's running 500, because I can look myself in the mirror and start getting close to
Yeah.
letting myself off or keeping myself accountable. Yeah. So he's in that range of 500 to 700 people. I don't think that guy, because he's in that position, has arrived.
Yeah.
So what's the next step look like for him?
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you what that looks like.
Yeah.
All I'm here to tell you is that it exists.
Yeah. And yeah.
It may not be a numerical thing even,
Yeah.
but it's something.
Yeah.
It's a school. It's branching out into daughter works.
Yeah.
It's being very missional minded.
Yeah.
It's something, or else you become a Dead Sea and it
Yeah.
stagnates.
Right. Yep. There's not an outflow, it's going to stagnate.
It's going to stagnate.
An outflow requires growth, expansion.
Well,